Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry for the delay. My name's Miguel. I go by Miggy Crypto. I'll be moderating. What's up, man? See some familiar faces in the crowd. We were going to have a couple more panelists join us, but it's just going to be us three for now, so we're going to have a little bit more time to work with. Once we figure out the mic situation, we'll have these guys introduce themselves. A little bit about me. I've been in the overall space for about a decade, doing what most people did, buying, selling, trading Bitcoin. Now I work a lot in the NFT industry, specifically helping develop communities for projects. I'm currently working for a game studio that's building a MMORPG that's going to be on the blockchain. Are we good? Did you get, okay, and so yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce the other two panelists, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Check. Hello. Hi. Hello, Miami. I'm Nathan Epen. I'm an investor. I've been in the space for some time. I'm very passionate about the subject. My background was in trading and technology. So obviously this was a perfect fit for me once I read the Bitcoin paper, and then been involved in Bitcoin, NFTs, DeFi through companies that I've invested in. And I just love the space, love meeting people, and here I am.
Good morning. So I think I'm good, if you guys can hear me. I'm Sheldon Deere. I'm technical lead for Octopus Network. I'm proud to tell you that I've been in the space for way longer than the average person, but at the same time, that pride is just kind of a small chip. I've been active as a researcher since about 2014, when I went on a defensive engagement against malicious Monero and Bitcoin mining at work. I had read the white paper in 2009, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. There's no way this is going to work out. I'm so glad I was wrong. And when I was shown that I was wrong in 2014, I was hooked. I've been really plugged into the industry ever since. And that did mean that I didn't want to be on stage, that I didn't want to be a face or a brand, but the time has come to help others. So here I am.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about multi-chain and you know what it means. So we had it set up a little bit differently to include the other panelists. So we're going to kind of just wing it a little bit. So I'll go ahead and start off with a random question. I guess just what does it mean to be multi-chain or to go multi-chain? I guess to you guys.
Sure. So let's go it this way, okay? Blockchains, let's put it as they are just value. Blockchain is a database, so it's a ledger, and a ledger, when you have things over there and when you can move it around, it's value. So what's happening right now is all these blockchains are islands of value. So there's a Bitcoin blockchain, there's Ethereum blockchain. Think of it as you're in the US and you want to go to London. You have the dollar with you. You want to go to London, you reach there. Imagine there was no credit cards or there were no banks. You want to go to a restaurant, what do? You know, they want to serve you food, but they can only accept pound, right? You need some form of a bridge to move your dollar to the pound because that's the only thing that they accept. Again, US and UK, two islands of value. What does the bridge do? It moves these things around, the value across these islands. So same way, in the NFT or the blockchain space right now, there are these siloed bridges or siloed islands, which has a lot of value. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, and it goes down, but there are hundreds and hundreds of them. And that is going to be the reality. Just like you have hundreds and hundreds of languages, hundreds and hundreds of currencies, same way you're going to have hundreds of L1 blockchains, L2s, and all those things. And to gain the maximum value out of this, you need to move this value around. And that is what you mean by a multi-chain environment. You're going to have your identity. Just imagine you have your identity on Facebook. You made this pop or your picture or whatever that's there. And imagine you can't move it to Twitter or any of those things. Same thing. Imagine you can move it around. That's what I mean by what we mean by a multi-chain environment.
Same question.
So I'll take up the sort of antithesis as an engineer because I'm supposed to be the nerd on stage, so I'm gonna keep my hat on. I think that the description of value is not inaccurate or wrong necessarily, but as an engineer, when I think about these things in a solution design or how someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm trying to execute this, what are the tools available? You're absolutely right that these are an archipelago that don't have bridges between them. But to me, I think that means that multi-chain application sometimes is thematically about the space between them and making that better. Sometimes it is dissolving the space between them to make another application. So some of the more advanced, requests that have come to my desk are, hey, I want to build this really complex thing. What does that look like? Okay, well, you need this solution from here, you need this advantage here. It's not an uncommon need to have your own chain and also be on a layer 1 blockchain, right? We're really big about that at Octopus. But that design is just an example of needing to be in more than one place at one time because it is so valuable, because the value is to be able to, take actions that are not nearly as efficient in legacy systems, right? So in too many words, that's an easy way to say that the real value that I'm seeing in multi-chain products and multi-chain deployments is the acknowledgement that the bridge between them is sometimes in the background. So I think that it in the foreground is the regular narrative that we're used to, no disrespect, but also the applications that are coming today, multi-chain applications that are coming today, they are inherently different than what we were looking at a few years ago, which was entirely thematic to bridges, right? So if I can, I'll say welcome to Wayne. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll just, tip of the hat. We had 2 speakers who weren't able to make it, so very glad to have another professional, long in the industry joining us today. To not take it from Miggy, do you want to answer the question as well? Because I think it's a good question. How do you see multi-chain applications? What does sort of like a multi-chain product or system mean to you?
Yeah. All right, is this working? All right, cool. Yeah. Thanks for the invite, Miggy. Yeah, I was sitting in the crowd, wasn't planning on being on the panel, but multi-chain for me is what we focus on with what I do is around interoperability, being able to have a seamless system. And I think most end users aren't going to really give a crap about multi-chain. They want a seamless experience. And so building the bridges and the tools is necessary, and also those interfaces that are going to make it easy to where it's interoperable, where they don't care what chain they're on. Just when someone goes to a website, they don't care what's in the background. They don't care what the IP address is. They want to know it works. And it's the same thing when it comes to the future of Web3. People want to be able to have that interoperability, and that's what's going to drive adoption. So for me, it's important. These bridges are important, but also tools that are going to make it easy to where it's a seamless experience to where the user doesn't even realize they're using it. And when that happens, then we're going to see a really big acceleration towards adoption.
Agreed.
Totally agreed with Sheldon, what you said, Nobody should know that, underlying what's happening. Like when you go on Google, when you want to do a search, you should be worried about what's the TCP IP thing that's going on. You just want to put in your search term and the results should come.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to have these conversations because, you hear a lot of different terms. And so multi-chain means something different to each person. Just because there's not one specific definition that the general population tends to focus on. There's a lot of ways to go multi-chain, whether it's interoperability through the protocols or just, piggybacking off what exists, creating layer 2s, all sorts of different ways. And so glad to have Wayne up here. Thanks for joining us. FIO's definitely, helping do a lot to make those interoperable systems possible. So Sheldon, let me ask you, we'll stick with the question that we had earlier. I thought it was a good one. So what path do you see for NFTs in a multi-chain environment? With tribalism wearing thin, how will the different ecosystems be able to acknowledge or even utilize each other's NFTs?
Sure, that's a good question. So there's an inherent challenge to products coming up at the same time, trying to compete with each other, and then also being compatible, right? This is not the model we're used to from older software systems, whether it's a SaaS platform or Word documents. We're used to one thing sort of fighting its way to the top, and then competition says, okay, we're going to stop competing with you, now we'll join up. This is part of why we're still in this tribalist moment. So I'm very glad to see tribalism wearing thin in a bear market. But basically, the way that I see this going forward is, number one, most people today who are in the NFT space who are active are willing to try another chain. That's number one, is that there's some flexibility or sort of like patience there. Number two is bridging systems that are differentiating themselves, right? So there are lots of bridging systems that you can use today. They won't necessarily tell you how they work. They won't tell you what's in the background, right? Because they want to make a good user experience. But there's a balance between trusting an entity that is, not just taking control of your NFT, but taking control of it on one chain in order to give you a wrapped or secondary instance of it on another chain. this is a common way that people are looking to make NFTs bridge across environments. I think that that's not terrible, but it is also moderately low trust. So I think that there's a real question of, okay, who do I trust to manage my NFTs between point A and point B? Because if my NFT isn't exactly the same at point B, then what is the caveat I've just accepted from this unknown third party, right? So I think that that's really the rub, is not necessarily getting people to jump straight into compatibility, data standards, interoperability at a protocol level, which we need. I want that, but I think we have to work our way there, and that's by people in different environments saying, hey, I do have 2 NFTs in 2 different places. Why can't I go from point A to point B, and what does that mean?
No, absolutely. I think I completely agree. And okay, remind me how to say your name.
It's Nitin.
Nitin? Okay. So Nitin, question for you. Developer relations is an entire niche of its own for project management. And with all these new blockchains coming up, with all these blockchains being created, how do service solution providers see the current labor economy? Is it easier to find more people developing now than it was like a year ago? Or is this something that, because there's so many blockchains coming up, it's getting harder to find good work because, nobody's really able to focus on one thing?
So if you really go hardcore, like true developers, I would say there are not really even 4,000 developers across the world who can really code in Solidity or something like that. Would that be a fair estimate?
I wouldn't say that, but 4,000 and Solidity is the numbers I don't focus on right now.
But
so I'm not paying attention to this market, to be fair.
But see, the problem here is it's a very new space, okay? And the corporates are not in it yet. So let's say you put in Java as an example. So I'm talking more from a technical developer perspective. If you put Java and if you put New York and if you put it on Indeed, you will get close to like 20,000 jobs that are available, all right? So CS graduate who is looking, if he learns Java, Python, or any of these things, this is the number of jobs that he has over there. Now, if you put in Solidity, there are 70 jobs out there in New York, all right? Now, these are not pure Solidity jobs, but they have Solidity written over there. Okay. Now, when you have something like that, the number of people who know the stuff means if you want to go deep down there are not too many. And the other pieces, there's so much hacks happening. So there were $2.2 billion worth of hacks happening. 1.8 is in the interoperability space because you have a large surface area now, and it's open source. Every hacker out there, and it's a honeypot. They can, if they are able to, figure it out, they can take away the money, right? So you are having you are in a space where you have to be really careful. It's not like you built a website, okay, the website goes down, it's okay. All right, there is a reputation problem if your website goes down, but imagine now your website goes down and they take away every money you have in your treasury and your customers' money. Now that is where the problem is. So you can't make this just, if you're having a DeFi project, if you're having an NFT project, you can't just get somebody who has no clue to build this because you have to be really careful about the security and privacy. So from that perspective, it's hard to find people. The good piece is you have the whole world as your audience. You're not limited to one location. So there are pluses and minuses. The main thing is that you need a lot more education, on platforms and companies that are doing that. That has to increase because you need more people into the space.
No, absolutely. And that's one thing that, like, when talking about living in a multi-chain environment or even thriving, we need people. We need developers and programmers. So
yeah, I've got something to add to that. I mean, he's right. I was actually on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about that. Think about outside of Web3, all of the tech jobs that have all the people that have just been let go. Twitter, Amazon, Facebook, and that's just the main ones. Think about the smaller ripple effects that has as well. And part of the problem is those people aren't readily available to work in this space. So there's got to be some kind of coalition, like an education process, to train those people that want to move into this space, because right now they're just struggling. They're focused on finding a job, so they're not going to really be focused on learning anything new unless the job market is really tight. And then outside of that, working with colleges, and I'd say even high schools, we need to have more programs that work on getting people into the space there to where they can learn. Because that's the first part, is having available talent pool, which from that, with the way the space is designed, we're going to see so many great things created. And then what you mentioned about trust is also important too. You can't just be a founder and not have any understanding of the dev work either. I've learned that. I was actually talking to somebody downstairs earlier, and their project has been put on hold because they have 4 main devs that were creating the project, and they found out that those devs were basically orchestrating on the side rug pulls on a certain chain, and they literally had to let all of them go at one time and shut off access because it could have been detrimental to the project. You're not just dealing with a website that can go down, or a Web 2 product. You can deal with people's finances that can be drained. So it's a dicey area, but we need to, at the end of the day, outside of having controls in place, we need to focus on developing a workforce for the world of tomorrow. I tell my kids all the time, like, focus on where the world is going, and not on jobs that are going to be obsolete here, or already are obsolete, but colleges are still offering courses on.
I want to echo that just briefly, because I know we got to keep moving, but 100% agree with both of you that there needs to be sort of more demand in the space. At the same time, I think it's not really a call to action. It's more of like, you see bigger corporations slowly working their way into the space. The same problem happened in the cybersecurity industry. You only are able to upskill people to the actual things that you need when you're trying to hire somebody today in cybersecurity. It's getting to that point of similar desperation in crypto, I think, where there's relevant talent, there's adjacent talent, but the exact talent that most people are looking for isn't available. So it makes more sense to pick up a developer who has some skills and then upskill them, instead of trying to fight your way to the top for the one rare candidate.
Yep. Totally agreed on that one. You have to get the developers that are out there, and you have to, and here it's just not about tech. There's a philosophy also, when you're coming to the space. In the regular world, you don't have to worry about these things. You just have to only have to code maybe Java or Python, that's enough. And you just deliver that. But here, because there's this money, there's money involved in it, and the developers have access to that money. So that creates, as he said, there was this project and 4 devs were doing something on the side. What do you do? Like, in your traditional world, nothing like that can happen because you have access to PayPal. The devs don't have access to PayPal.
Or you just take a legal action and, hey, sorry, it is what it is. Different judgment to make to go through that experience, right?
Here your devs could be in China or India or somewhere in Serbia. What legal action can you take against them? There's nothing. There's no recourse. At best, you can issue an apology online.
Yeah, so, basically the consensus is, multi-chain means many different things. And in order to do that, we need people who know how to build the foundation to make this interoperable world. So I guess we'll follow up with one more kind of bigger question and then kind of go through closing comments. So for, multi-chain in a multi-chain environment, what does that mean for mass adoption? Is this something that is necessary? Or is this something that, no, we can have changes do their own individual thing, and that'll still help? But I guess we'll start with Wayne. Fio's doing some good work, and so multi-chain and mass adoption.
Yeah, I think the future is multi-chain, and this is where people, the tribalism needs to kind of die down and quit thinking that it's one chain to rule them all. It's not, and I hate that narrative. A couple of weeks ago, I was at an event in Austin. And it was heavily Bitcoin maximalism. And I got in a lot of debates with people there because they think it's Bitcoin or nothing. And Bitcoin can't do everything. Just like there's going to be different chains, different protocols that are used, and people need to embrace that there's no one, this is going to be that killer, the Bitcoin killer, the ETH killer. But there's going to be a lot of different chains. And I think, there's going to be some chains that are just going to fall away and not really get a lot of adoption? Absolutely, but it's not gonna be like we see today, because we think in the corporate world right now. You think in the corporate world where it's like one company just becomes the massive giant and everything else dies away. You look at what happened with like Facebook and things like that, and that's not what's gonna happen in today's world. So, but we need to shift that mindset. It's not a zero-sum game, and embrace that different chains are gonna provide different functionality, and we're gonna need a bunch of them.
So we're going to kind of have to wrap this up. If you guys want to include this answer into your final thoughts, and then, after your thought, give your last comment and kind of let everybody know where to find you on Twitter. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. So, or whoever wants to start. Sheldon.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take it. So I do get into conversations pretty frequently, whether it's with maximalism or with tribalism, and reminding people that there is not a benefit to building a single blockchain that does everything, because that's literally not the risk model that we came to this industry to produce. Is not a sort of shallow philosophy, right? It takes some time, it takes some patience. But I think that most people who are walking into this industry right now, including the Fortune 500, they understand that it is worth the wait. They understand that the old model of throwing money on a group of people on Twitter isn't the most productive thing that it was, 5-6 years ago, and that goes for crypto projects as well. But I think that the Fortune 500 and other large entities driving demand is the way that we're going to see this education path going forward, where upskilling happens for junior blockchain developers to get them to launch an enterprise product. I'm not saying I'm particularly excited for that. I'm saying that I've left the Fortune 500. I'm happy to be out. But at the same time, we've been talking about industries coming to the adoption table for a long time, and I think they're basically here now. And that means that we have to decide how that affects the trust models that we've been setting up for the past 10 years. And obviously, in some cases, they'll want to take over. They'll release something that is an NFT, maybe on Flow, and then boarded within Dapper contracts or whatever. But the wider world, not just crypto, but people in general who have been using things like Litecoin and Bitcoin for remittances and other applications, they don't necessarily understand the depth that everyone at this concept is at this conference is evaluating, but the value that is trying to be brought, which is this speed of transaction, this speed of compute, but also the trust that comes with it. Read, write, execute is what I model for Web3. I think that the bottom is in from a mentality perspective. Price, I don't pay attention to so much, but from a outside vision, the last 3 months have effectively made the psychological bottom. So you can find me on Twitter at the Octopus Network account. I'm very happy to be technical lead for Octopus Network, so please come ask me nerdy questions, and we'll see about helping you guys launch your own blockchain for community products. So that's my ending spiel.
So think about it this way: if you're a developer or a user, at the present stage, if you have Solana, if you want to get Ethereum, you have to go to Coinbase, sell Solana, get USD, then buy Ethereum, then bring it back to your project. There's this transfer fees and the fees charged by Coinbase on each transaction, or whichever exchange that is, centralized or decentralized. So this is where a bridge or there are multiple chains that it's going to be there. Just like there are plenty of languages, plenty of currencies, plenty of religions, there are going to be plenty of chains out there. The question is, some of them are going to be dominant, like a Bitcoin or Ethereum is going to be dominant because of their security or their adaptability or whatever be the case. The question is, many of your users who are coming new would not want that high price. So it has to be very seamless for them to bring them on board to your old chain or bring old users from the old chain to a new chain. For a developer, something like that, it has to be made easy for all your developers or all your users. And that's the way you can reach some form of mass adoption to make it easy for them to come on board. And that's what we at Router Protocol that we do. We make these bridges possible, or these swaps or the multi-chain for NFTs or regular old cryptocurrencies possible. That is what, we're not the only ones. There are plenty of projects out there that are trying to do. This is a very big space. And I'm available on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Anypen is the handle.
Awesome. Wayne, if you want to let everybody know where to find you and throw a last comment, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm across all social media platforms. Go as Blockchain Wayne. I started podcasting under that name in 2017, and it stuck. And then also follow FIO Protocol. We've got at Join FIO is our Twitter account, and we're focusing, no matter which chain or which cryptocurrency you're using, we've got a protocol that makes all of it easier for the end user.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. This was the talk on thriving in a multi-chain network. My name is Miggy Crypto. You can find me on Twitter at Crypto33Miggy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, guys,
Appreciate it.
you guys want to get a selfie?